we're going to call the meeting to order at 5:50. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first thing, we are going to suspend the normal rules and not take any public comments due to the public not being here. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes from March 5th, 2020?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Kudaraskis?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Mr. Drossy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Supervisors' comments. All right. First thing I want to do, I want to talk about the assessments. I've been getting a lot of calls regarding assessments, and we understand that the timing was very poor. Everybody understands that, but what most people don't understand, and I really didn't understand until I talked to Ms. Golden, was that all of those timetable for assessments are all regulated by the state. So we don't have any way to postpone any of that or to move any of that back unless we got something from the governor, some executive order, which he did not execute. So we had to move forward with that, with the assessments and the mailings, just like we did, because as Ms. Golden said, she wanted to give everybody the opportunity to, as much time, if somebody had a problem with their assessments, to grieve them. So right now she's taking phone calls, and if you can't resolve any assessment issues with that, she's also, or you can move up and appeal that to the appeals board. And if all else fails and you're not happy with that resolution, there's always small claims court, which if anybody needs to pursue that avenue, if you call our office, we'll be able to get you that information to how to proceed with that.
If you're done with, I'd like to make a comment on what
Okay.
I said. I don't know who else got a letter. I got a copy of a letter that one of our residents sent, and I think he asked a good question that I wouldn't be able to answer. So the question, as I recall, I can read it, was were all the properties assessed and or reassessed, and if they're not 100% reassessed, does that constitute some arbitrariness or at least unfairness, in the sense that some are assessed higher, some properties are reassessed and some properties are not. So if you are reassessed and your assessment goes up, you're consequently paying a higher tax, have a higher tax burden, whereas your neighbor or someone else that didn't get reassessed in some other part of the town doesn't suffer that consequence. So that's a question I would like to ask Teresa Golden to answer, unless somebody else knows the answer.
Well, I think that there's been enough interest in it, and I've received enough emails that what I'm going to do is take the emails that I received, and for our next meeting, I'm going to ask our assessor to be here and answer some of the questions. And if you have any further questions, you can email it to me at supervisor@townoflysander.org, and I will give those emails to her, and maybe we can have her come in at the next meeting and answer some of those questions. The budget. I have something that was put out by the governor's office, and what he says here is major cuts in store for state budgets as New York faces billions in lost revenues. Then he goes on and he talks about there's going to be about, they're thinking maybe $15 billion in lost revenues right now. And most of the time they underestimate that thing, so it could be more than that. And the governor said his team cautioned that education funding, which makes up about a third of state spending annually, could be in for a hit, and hinted dramatic belt tightening could be in store. So if they're going to do that to the schools, it's going to trickle down to the counties and the town as well. Now, they also put out, the state also put out, the governor's office put this out today, talking about the state budget. And AIM funding, which comes to the towns, is still in the budget. CHIPS funding, which is funding that goes to the highway, is also in the state budget. But there's also language in the budget that says the budget includes language that would permit the state budget director to make uniform reductions to appropriations if the state budget becomes unbalanced because revenues fall below projections and expenditures rise above projections during a given period. So I don't know what they meant that to mean, but if I'm reading that, it means that if they don't get the revenues that they want, they can cut funding to whatever line item, and that could include funding to the towns as well. So what we did for this year is we had a project on Willett Parkway that we were moving forward. That was 100% grant funded. We had to put a hold on that because we couldn't get assurances from anybody from the state that we were going to get that money in a timely manner. Now, we did speak with Minority Leader Barkley about the funding, and he said that we would eventually get the money, but what does that mean to us? We don't know. Eventually, does that mean next year, the following year? But if we were to have to take that out of our fund balance, that would be too much for us to absorb in a given year. We also put on hold the Mott Road project, because the Mott Road project, we had to find some savings in our highway budget, and Mott Road was the biggest single expenditure that we were going to have this year. And I know the residents on Mott Road have been waiting for that project for a long while, and we definitely wanted to do it, but a portion of that, a significant portion of the Mott Road project was coming from state and county funding. So we had to put that one on hold. And the thing with Mott Road is we know we're going to have to do that right down to the base coat. So it's not going to cost us any more money than it already has. It's going to cost us, but if we don't do the preventative maintenance on the other roads, they could end up costing us more in the long run. So what we tried to do is just do all the preventative maintenance on the roads that we have now that are in good shape. We want to make sure we keep them in good shape, and then postpone Mott Road until next year along with Willett Parkway, when we'll get a better idea when and if we're going to get that funding.
Are you done with the highways? Because I'd like to make a comment if you're done with it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I think what I heard you say, Bob, was, and I appreciate that, and I don't know what the dollar figure is for both Mott Road and Willett Parkway, but that's good that we're putting them on hold. But I would like to see us go a little bit further and not, at this point in time, commit to spending dollars on any other road improvements or repairs until such time as we're confident that we can afford to spend X, Y, and Z, or a certain percentage. So, with that, if there's not an understanding or an agreement collectively, then I would like to submit a resolution to be voted on tonight where any highway project that is anticipated to be done this year has to come to the town board first for approval. And the only reason, this is not about control and power. I mean, the last thing I want to do is worry about this or that with roads, but unless the road is potentially going to suffer a catastrophic failure in 2020, then my thinking is between April 2nd today and whenever, we ought to just hold on to our money until we get a better sense of confidence that that money doesn't need to be spent on other things. So maybe the highway as a possibility, the highway superintendent can come to us at the next meeting or send to you, Bob, a list of here are the absolute desperately things that need to be absolutely desperately done, and if we don't do them, it's going to be catastrophic failure. Because I just don't, I believe everything that we're going to do, that we plan to do in 2020 is necessary, in the world where things were normal. And I support that, but we're in an abnormal time here, and I don't see our roads being desperately out of shape, where 1 year or even several months is gonna hurt them not doing it. So let's open this up for discussion, but I don't want to move on funding any road projects unless it comes to the board first.
Is this a time period in the meeting where you want to hold this discussion? Or would you rather finish your comments and then open up a discussion?
Well, I
Because
mean-
I would like to hold this discussion, but I don't know if this is.
Well, we don't have a lot of agenda items on, so if we wanna, this is supervisors' comments and town board comments, we can add those together before we get to regular agenda items, if that's all right with everybody. We'll do that because we suspended some of the rules anyway, so we might as well suspend, we can just lump them together and talk about it. I think that's a fair time to do that.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay?
So, like Bob said, under normal circumstances, of course, I like our pavement management plan. But daily, things are changing in our country, in our state, in our community. And we just don't know if we're gonna need this money for something. And I know that our infrastructure is important, but I don't know, and Jeff alluded to this the last time we met, I don't know if the roads are as important as the people living on them. I know they're not, but I don't know that they're falling apart. I don't know that the roads are crumbling to the point where if we don't do every road on this list, that they're all gonna, disintegrate to the point of Monterey. So,
How would one validate which roads need to be done, right? So how would we make that validation? Would we take the highway supervisor's recommendation, or we would have our engineer take a look at it, or the town board take a look at it? How would we come up with that?
Well, you're looking at me, so
analysis?
the way I would answer that question, and it's a fair question, I mean, and we're not road people. And we have to have a certain amount of trust and confidence in both our engineer and our highway superintendent, but if those two gentlemen can put their heads together and say, all the things that are on the list for 2020, my goodness, if the town doesn't fix this particular road or do this particular thing, someone's gonna fall into a creek or something. I'm just making stuff up. And I think you have to have, they need to present to us an argument. And we need to be able to take that argument apart and say, you know what, you're right. We need to spend $300,000 out of the $650 that we budgeted tomorrow or whenever. But all the other ones, you know what, we're gonna wait. That's how I would do it, Jeff.
agreed,
Anyone else?
It makes sense to me. If there's a road that we know is gonna have one more winter and it's going to significantly impact the cost of reconstruction, for example, we don't want any road to get to the point of Mott Road, right? Mott Road's gonna cost $300,000 to replace. But if we can wait a year, if we can wait 2, I don't have a problem. And I think that, if the highway superintendent feels strongly about a road, if he wants to come in with a plan or a proposal, I have no problem talking to him about it. And hopefully this is just a short time fix. I'm willing to consider this.
I disagree. I think that the highway superintendent gave us a highway management plan. He came in and he took essentially 25% of his budget out. The problem with letting roads go that need repair is that once they get past, and I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I have done some research on it. Once they get past a certain point, and that's usually 50% of their life cycle. Once they get past that, the roads start to degrade exponentially, and it costs a lot more money. Now, he has, I don't know, essentially about 25 roads here that he's going to talk about. If we do what is being suggested, I think that he's got to set up the personnel, he's got to set up schedule which roads are going to be done. If we ask him to do this, and we disagree with them. Now we're getting into a back and forth, and we don't have that authority. It's the highway superintendent's authority to do the roads. And I think that there's other ways, and I went through, I don't have it here, I didn't bring it with me, but I was going department by department, and I came up with another $90,000 in savings. And that was just the initial meetings with the department heads. So we haven't really, that was just trimming the fat out of the budget that was already there. So we're already talking about $400,000 that we're having as savings. That's a significant amount of money, and I think we still have to do work. Now, out of all the services that we provide to the town, I think the highway is the most important service that we provide to the town. People have to go to work, we want to have good roads, they need to be plowed, they have to mow along the side. I mean, that's our biggest service that we provide to the town. And to try and go and to cut into the most important and the biggest service that we provide to the town, I just don't think is a good idea. I think there's other areas that we can talk about, that we can cut. And like I said, there's another $90,000. I just didn't bring it with me. I thought I did. Where we can cut, and that's not even talking personnel. That's just talking areas that going to different conferences and things like that. Part-timers, not hiring part-timers, having our full-timers do the work, asking them to work a little harder, and areas like that. Maybe we haven't even talked about park programs that cost us. I mean, if this social distancing is going to last any length of time, we might not even be able to do the park programs anyway. So I think that those are areas that we should look at before we cut into the highway budget. I think this is too important and I think that if we did do that and we were wrong, that it would cost us a lot more money going down the road. And I think this year's going to be difficult, but we're going to lag behind when the economy comes back. We're going to be a year behind, because that's when the revenues are going to come into us. So I think next year is going to be worse than this year. If $400,000, that's a significant savings. I think if we have $400,000 in a savings and we tighten our belt for next year, then that's something that we could talk about next year. I mean, we already have this plan in place. Next year comes along, we'll have a better idea where the economy is, have a better idea where the revenues are, and that's when we can attack maybe going to a real austerity budget as far as the roads.
Well, you said 400,000. I guess the math is not adding up for me. 25%. What's the budget for highway improvements? 850? What is it? Does anybody remember?
I've got $1,168,600.
That was the total budget this year?
That's what I've got on our page.
So 25% of that is $250,000, right? So how'd you get 400?
No, savings of $490,000 from other areas that I found savings.
Well, 250 and 90 is three.
Well, it's 310. Mount Road would be 310.
So I just because I happen to have it in front of me, I've got Mont Road at 240.
Mount Road at 240. I had it at, let's see. Yep, you're right. I don't know where I came up with that 310. I did
Which
have
brings us up to 330. Still, it brings us up to 330.
Bob, I don't want to discount anything you said because it's all legitimate, and I really don't want to go back and forth with the highway superintendent because I know his heart's in the right spot in terms of wanting to get things done. But I think all of us, him included, have to appreciate that we're in the most dire of circumstances in this country, in the world. And if he can't come to us with a proposal, yeah, I hear you guys, and here's how we can save 50% of the budget. And I just picked 50% out of the clear blue. But maybe by July or August we can revisit this, and what do you think? And we can maybe spend some money then. So if we can't agree, then I'm going to submit a resolution tonight that says we hold back 50% of the highway department's funding for road improvements until such time as the highway superintendent convinces us otherwise.
So Jerry already cut out 25% out of his budget, correct?
Yes.
Now, I'm sure there's probably more. Could we sit down with them and talk to them and see if there's any other road? Because I don't want to get in the back and forth with them either, right? Because I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to hold up different schedules because he's got to plan everything. So I think Jerry already did his due diligence to find out what roads he can cut. So we'll get in the back and forth, and he says, well, these roads we're gonna have to do anyways, which he probably already submitted to you, right? So.
Actually, I asked him to look at cutting some, I didn't ask him for a number. He came up with, you know, we talked about Mott Road, and I said 310, yeah, it's 240 right here. I misspoke. But that was a large portion of his budget. I suggested that, and he agreed to that right away. I mean, there was no arguments as far as that. So I didn't ask him about anything else, because in my mind, personally, I think we should take care of the roads.
No, I
If
think
you
we
talk,
should do too, as well, right?
when I'm talking to our engineer and the highway superintendent, they both say that these roads have been neglected for years. That's not me speaking, that's what they're saying. And if they've been neglected, yeah, if they've been neglected, this was the first year that he had any kind of money to really take care of some things. I'm sure he's gonna come in and say, and I'm not speaking for him, but I'm sure he's gonna come in and say, these roads need to be fixed. And there has to be some time where the highway superintendent has to schedule these things. You know, there's a scheduling thing. I personally, you know, I mean, if you wanna make a motion, certainly you can do that, but, you know, I'm not in favor of taking any of these roads off, because in my mind, that's the most important service we provide to the community. I think we should look at other areas first, and then, you know, we could revisit the highway. But, you know, I mean, he's not here, so we can't ask him that. I mean, we can, certainly if you want to make that proposal, it passes, then he'll have to come in and he'll have to justify it.
Well, I will, and I don't know what the consensus is here, but when we get to the resolutions, I will do that. I will propose that we hold back on 50% of the funding for highway road improvements until such time as the highway superintendent comes in with a plan of action to either accommodate that cut or convince us otherwise. And it seems to me that's a reasonable thing to do. And we have, and in 2 weeks, we can revisit this whole issue with him.
So the motion, okay, well, I'll put it down as motion E, item number E, agenda item E, or I'm sorry, F. And what do you want it to read?
It would read that the highway road, the road improvement budget for 2020 is to be 50% of the fund of the road improvement budget projects will be held back until such time as the highway superintendent can accommodate a 50% cut or show to the town board otherwise. But until such, I'm really making a mess of the resolution, but I think you got the gist.
I got it.
We got the idea. You basically, you're not saying you wanna cut anything.
No.
You wanna hold back so that Jerry starts to prioritize roads, does the ones that he feels absolutely need it, and then come and say, look, this is what we need to do.
And just for your benefit, I shouldn't do this, but anecdotally, one of the roads on the list is my road, Dingle Hole Road, and it's scheduled for chip seal or oil and stone. And I can't, I'd love that to happen, but it was done like 4 years ago. And I can't imagine one more year of my road falling apart just because it doesn't have oil and stone put on it. So those are the kinds of things, and maybe Jerry will say, oh yes it will, Bob, but I'd like to hear that, and I'm willing to give up Dingle Hole Road, and I shouldn't, it has nothing to do with me living there, but that's an example. Some of the roads that we look at are in really fine shape relative to other communities. That's all. But I don't want to be misconstrued as thinking that I don't want to do our roads. I want to do all of them. I just wish COVID-19 would go away.
It's not gonna.
Is this virus Bob, going to impact our highway guys' ability to pave these roads and do the work on the roads?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
With everything that's going on right now, is this gonna impact our highway guys doing the work on the roads?
I don't know, I can't answer that.
Because they work in close proximity to one another.
So I mean,
They're
this is
essential
gonna-
workers though, so it shouldn't.
Unless they get ill,
And we only have, what, 9 guys?
unless they become ill. Here's the thing, we don't know. We really don't know what's gonna happen. Everything changes daily, which is why it might be a good idea to slow down a little bit.
And except for the Carrier-Tone, all construction projects got halted, so.
MAT Bank.
In the bank, right. But I mean, these guys work, shoulder to shoulder when they're doing road work.
I can't imagine them being able to go out and do the work unless the situation got significantly changed.
Well, they're gonna
By
have
mass,
to,
hopefully by then.
they're gonna have to go back, I mean, there's gonna be a different way of working. Everybody's gonna have to do that for the remainder of the year, so they're gonna have to find a way to get around that. I mean, people are working in stores, people are working,
Right.
in all types of different jobs, in the hospitals and everything else like that. I mean, they're gonna have to find a way to keep their social distance and still get the work done. If they have to wear masks, we have to provide them with masks, we have to provide them with some gloves and things, well, that's what we'll have to do. You have something?
I was just gonna say that if they're essential workers, they're gonna be able to work.
Yeah,
They're subject to, dangerous condition, obviously. If we provide them with all the protections that we can provide them with, that's all you can do.
exactly.
And keep your fingers crossed.
Okay, see how this sounds. 50% of the, make a motion for 50% of the 2020 pavement management plan will be held back until the highway superintendent meets with the town board to verify that the remainder of the proposed road improvement plan is necessary. Does that sound all right?
I guess so, yeah, that'll work, right, yeah. I mean, that's the gist.
Okay, that'll be F. Okay, any other comments? Seeing as we're in the town board comments portion.
I would just like to say one quick thing, and I know we pretty much used up our comments there, but, I've said over the years many, many times that we live in a great community, and we do, and we're going through a tough time, and I think it might get a little worse before it gets better, but if any community can pull through this, helping each other out, getting the job done, it's this one. That's the end of my comments.
Nothing lasts forever. We'll get through this together. Like Peter said, we have a phenomenal community. I'm on social media quite a bit. I've seen some phenomenal groups of just ordinary community people coming together and bringing out the best things that make Baldwinsville, make Lysander what they are. So we'll get through this together.
Mr. Kudarowski.
I'll just echo what Roman and Peter had to say, so just keep your distance and stay safe, pretty much, until this is over with.
And I'll just, one last thing I'll add is, remember to try to be patient with everybody. I think that people are genuinely afraid right now. When people are afraid, sometimes they lash out. Just remember that we're all going through this together. We're neighbors, we're friends, we're family. We'll get through this together. Just try to be patient with each other.
Just to finish up, we're cutting all but essential spending. So that's what we started doing that this week, and we're going to continue to do that. But we still have to operate. So we're going to have to spend some money, but I can assure you that the money that we're spending is going to be for essential items. And we are open for business. Pretty much we're conducting all the business that we would normally have, but the building is not open. And the reason the building is not open, and I'd like to talk to that later on with new business when we should open this up, but the reason the building is not open is because if we hadn't closed it when we did and somebody came down with COVID, then the coronavirus, then we would have had to close the building anyway. And then we had to disinfect the building and shut it down, and a lot of the people wouldn't be working. and might have fallen ill. So we closed it down, and most of the people here are still working from home. Most of the department heads are here on a regular basis. I'm here on a daily basis, and we're still taking phone calls. You can you can call the departments, leave a message if somebody isn't there. Somebody will get back to you. If you want to call my number is 315-857-0281. I come in, check the messages every day, and even I stop in on the weekends to also check them. So I'm getting back to people with their emails and their phone calls. So just remember, we're open for business, just like we normally would, only it's done more remotely than it would have in the past. But it's just a new way of doing business. Who knows how long it's going to last, but we're going to have to continue this for at least the near future. Okay. So we'll move on to the regular agenda items. So may I get a motion to authorize the town clerk to submit standard workday resolution to the Office of New York State Comptroller, New York State and Local Retirement System for Counselor Jeff Kudaraskis. The record of activities result is reflected as 9.72.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? We'll start with
I
Mr.
can't vote on
Kudaraskis.
it.
Oh, okay. So you're an abstention?
Yes.
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well.
Welcome to the public sector, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion carried. May I get a motion to authorize the town clerk to advise for bids for the town of Lysander 2020 hot mix asphalt paving projects. Bids will be received by mail until 10 a.m. on April 14, 2020, at which time they will be open and read out loud. If the office remains closed until April 14, 2020, the bid opening will be recorded and made available to any interested parties upon request. Discussion. Any discussion?
The bid's also on the website.
And it's also on the website.
I'll move it.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I'll second it.
Okay?
Now, is this all of that we'll be bidding out? I mean, assuming this was a normal year, this is the hot mix, is there anything else that would be bid out?
Well, this is just for the hot mix asphalt project right now.
Right, so that's what I'm asking, what else, what other road projects would be bid out?
Well, this is just for the
Just be
asphalt.
just a rate.
Yeah, this is just a rate to see if whatever one we do, we're gonna get a rate from whomever submits the bid, and that's what we're
Oh,
gonna
I
pay.
get that, I'm just curious if there are other things in terms of the highway improvement plan that we also have to bid, and would that, or is it, I think there's more than just hot mix, I mean, Pete, you were on the highway committee, isn't?
Well, it's up to Jerry, what he wants, use hot mix, cold mix. I'm not a roads guy, but, I mean, this resolution appears to be only for hot mix.
Right. And I'm just asking, maybe Jerry can get back to us before the next meeting, what other items would have to be bid out between now and when he gets the job done, wants to do the work. I understand this, don't misunderstand me, I understand what we're doing here, but I'm thinking there's other things we have to bid out.
Okay? Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Mr. Kudaraskis?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. Motion carried. May I get a motion to award the Chase Cemetery mowing and trimming RFP to Bright View Landscapes, DBA Proscapes, in the amount of $396 per mow.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kudaraskis?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. Motion carried. May I get a motion to release the Tullamore subdivision punch list security requirement as recommended in the town engineer's letter dated March 16, 2020.
I'll move it.
I'll second
Discussion.
I think you missed D. Did you miss
We
D?
did, we did skip one.
We did?
Did you do
Yeah.
that?
But
The
we
surplus?
can vote on
Which
this,
one?
right?
The roadside
D.
mower?
D.
We skipped D.
Oh, I checked that, okay. Well, we could vote on this.
Take a look.
Check it out. Any discussion on this one?
What's the punch list?
E.
Would the-
Punch list, there was, there were things that needed to be done by the contractor, and apparently, according, I don't have his letter in front of me, but they were all taken care of according to the town engineer.
I can hear you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. That was E. I missed D. Checked it out before we did it. So may I get a motion to declare the roadside mower in the highway department surplus?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. Okay, so now we come to F. Okay. May I get a motion to have 50% of the 2020 pavement management plan will be held back until the highway superintendent meets with the town board to verify that the remainder of the proposed road improvement plan is necessary.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Well, I'm still thinking about what I want to say for my discussion. I like the idea. My only concern would be jamming him up where he wants to start a road and we don't have a town board meeting. That's my only concern, but I like the idea.
He has 50% of the budget, doesn't he? Doesn't he
Yes.
still have 50% to
Yes.
use? So he can
Okay.
still do some of the
Okay,
road.
okay. All right, good. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm a no. No. Okay, motion carried. All right. So now we'll move on to new business. Any new business from anybody?
For me. No, not for me. You said you wanted to bring something.
Yeah, anybody else have anything? I do. I think we should talk about, when we should open up the town hall. I personally think that I've been keeping an eye on what the county and the state is doing. The county is remaining closed through next week. I think we should at least do that, and the reason being is from everything that and I listen to those briefings every day from the governor and the county executive, from everything that I've been hearing, we haven't even peaked yet. So I think that we would want to keep that closed just in case one of our employees comes down with something. If they did, then we'd have to close the building anyway for another 2 weeks. So I think it would be prudent for us to at least keep it closed through the 10th, through next Friday, and then reevaluate it at the end of next week and see what we want to do further. But keep it closed until we get some assurances from the state and the county that we're not putting the public or our employees in any type of peril.
That's very wise, Bob, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And if this thing is fluid, we're gonna have to revisit it every week, I suspect, Bob.
That's what I'm thinking. It's a week by week thing. I don't think we want to bring them back too soon. If we bring them back too soon and then somebody comes down with it, now we got to close it for a minimum 2 weeks, disinfect the whole building. Right now, we're doing pretty well. People are at home. Nobody, none of the employees we have that anybody is aware of has come down with it yet. And not only that, we're not exposing the public to anybody in here that might have a potential, by coming in and out of the building. So, okay, so we'll reevaluate it on a week by week basis. Anybody else have anything else? New business?
Let me just say that with all that's going on, I get daily stuff from the state governor's office, municipal law section. I'll pass it on to you guys, but a lot of the stuff doesn't even pertain to us, so I'm not gonna send you
Yeah.
everything that I get, because you get inundated. But if there's any things that come through about town business, town meetings and so forth, I will be happy to pass it on to you via email. I can tell you that stuff that's been going on through the state, we're right in the middle of everything. We're doing it the right way,
Yeah.
so.
Well, actually, on that topic, and I can't believe I forgot about it, but, and I appreciate Jeff's copying all of us, but Skinny Atlas is going to this Zoom meeting, so, and I had sent that memo out, not so much about, for me personally, it was just for all of us collectively. Is Skinny Atlas breaking the law, Tony? I mean, what?
No, but there are requirements beyond going to those kinds of meetings. They have to be recorded, they have to be available to the public, and you have to have a quorum present, so that somehow you have to show on the record that everybody that's on radio conferencing is actually at the meeting.
So how are they gonna record a Zoom thing? Does Zoom allow you to record?
Well, it can be video as well as audio. I don't know what they've done in terms of the technology.
So what they're doing is, there's a meeting room ID and passcode for Zoom. What they're doing before, ahead of time, is they're registering that, and they're giving the public access to get into that meeting room, virtual meeting room. So all the public can do that, and hopefully, everyone else on the town board there would be on camera, with exceptions of the people in the audience.
Yeah, that's, so you can see and hear as well.
So is that something we should consider doing?
I don't know anything about it,
I have
so
no
if we're gonna
problem
consider it,
whatsoever,
someone's
yeah.
gonna have to take that lead, so.
Yeah, I can take that lead.
Yeah, I don't
absolutely.
have a problem with
Yeah.
it.
I'll look into that and get back to you
That'd be
tomorrow.
great, yeah, that'd be super.
See, I don't know what the technology of all that is, so what you need to do here locally
Right.
to set it up.
Yeah,
It's set up in an app. on
It's
the
a
phone.
web-based, website. Teachers are using that right now.
I use it every day.
Yeah, a lot of people are using it, for sure.
We used that before. Yeah, so.
I mean, this is not uncomfortable. I mean,
We don't record it though, like, that would be something we'd have to check in, how do we record it and make it so that it's open? I understand how we can give the code,
Right.
but I don't know how we
You could
record
put
it
a,
and
microphone right there and record it, or you can have a camera right on it, he
Well, that's
can
right.
log right into it and
In
record it
accordance,
right there.
in accordance with the current regulations, it also has to be transcribed. So somebody's gotta take the minutes of that meeting and physically write them out.
That's a good point. Does this one have to be this one has to be transcribed as well, right? That's what I thought. That's what Ms. Falcone and I spoke about. So this will be transcribed, and then you'll put that on the website? Okay, so that'll be on the website. This meeting will, once she gets through, you'll be able to see a transcription of this as well. Any other new business? Okay, I think we need to go into executive session, so may I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss employee and contractual issues that may have a legal impact on the town, and also get legal advice from our counsel?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All, discussion? We don't need discussion, but,
Aye.
Mr. Kudarowski?
Aye.
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 I'm also an aye. So we're going into executive session at 6:35.
So do we ask PACBTV to leave?
Yes.
Okay.